here. Yeah. Hello, everyone. I already talked with many of you, but today I really would like to say thank you to Anna for having me here, for inviting me. I'm so pleased to have the opportunity to learn more about the UK. A little bit more about my own positionality. I work in Sweden, but I'm not a Swede. I actually come from the Mediterranean, and I'm there for 10 years already. And I have to say that this always has put me in a position of an observer and look at Sweden, as I was also happy to hear Vanya mention someone that usually is a front runner, but it has its own challenge. And I just wonder how come the slide is not center. Could we maybe?
Was it a wide screen?
Oh, if it's possible, just to do. So, we just do like that. Yeah, thank you. So. This is just an introduction slide about the project that I'm bringing here to you. It's made of different work packages, and I think yesterday, I think this work package will be relating a lot. We study methods and tools for use in a planning context. We are developing decision support tools for planners for engagement of youth. We test methods. Then we have the intergenerational justice, where we study how the issues of equity and intergenerational justice could be better transposed into planning, because as we understand, knowledge at the moment on this is largely missing. But today I'm bringing you work we did for work package 2, which is interviews and conversation with planners and practitioners on the engagement of young people. We focus on young people as a social group that is being positioned in a particular way in planning practice in Sweden. And for you who might not already know that, Sweden actually has adopted a law that, an act, a planning act that mandates to municipalities to engage children and young people in participatory processes. So they have an obligation to do so. Since 2021. And you may wonder, I often get this question, how this came to place? And it's, for me, then very useful to mention that the country has a very particular view on youth and children. Youth and children have been always present in the narrative, have been already, when it comes to building places for kids, there has been always a receptivity to place children-friendly infrastructure close to residential areas. This is just one image that shows the playgrounds are usually not somewhere far away. They are in between houses. And what also is interesting is that safety is quite central to the agenda, but safety in the physical sense. And there is a law that says when you put kids to school, in principle, the municipality would like to have them within 15 walking minutes from school, so that they help kids to be autonomous, to walk around without concerns for personal safety in terms of car accidents, so on and so on. And a lot of space is actually set aside for kids to enjoy in the outdoor. And here again, we have a very fundamental value of the Nordics, which is access to nature, is embedded in culture. They value very much that nature is close, the nature is pristine as much as possible. A lot of parks, you might not see from here, but a lot of parks are actually not the typical Mediterranean style, like I would have been used from my home, where every piece is colored with flowers. They like nature to be as it is. And they also like the children and the youth to be as they are. And infrastructure, and that connects me to the chats we had yesterday, is infrastructure for play, for outdoor play, always we have elements of nature, so a lot of rocks, and that is speaking again to this question of MAGA or other infrastructure. So here you have 4 pictures of actually young age playgrounds. Things, of course, a bit different when we talk about teenager girls, but there is embedded element of values that go back to access to nature, use of nature element, and also battling with nature elements, because you know Sweden, all the Nordics they get dark very soon. It's wet and it snows, so at 3 o'clock in the afternoon during winter time, teenagers and kids do struggle with how do we actually, how can we play with our classmates to be outdoor. And all these values, in addition, on top of that, also the value on the democratic system, have actually pushed a very interesting process of up and down and push and pull of how we are where we are currently in Sweden with this law. So it has been a progressive transition that might answer to some of the questions of those who are interested in how you scale up the value of making places and spaces welcoming and friendly to the youth as an institutional requirement. It is also translated in the well-connected, let's say, welfare system, where in the 80s and 90s was allowing that around 2000, the United Nations Child Convention was very much mainstream at the national level, and in order to bring the United Nations Child Convention to compliance, a tool which is called the Child Impact Assessment tool was introduced. This is a tool that is being used at municipalities, and it's adults running an assessment. It mirrors what we know in environmental sciences, the environmental impact assessment. So you build on knowledge that you already have, what is good or bad for kids, for their health, and you use that to assess what's happening out there. But interesting as well, the dynamic that happened after 2000 with a change in Sweden from a welfare state where you had social housing and a very big policy things happening in the housing thing, which might not be relevant here, but this pushed to awareness that the neoliberal market now is coming into the picture, and there was a growing need for housing and a process of densification that actually started to erode what has been traditionally valued as green and places for youth and children. And both the public debate, the activists, and the policymakers saw the need to actually push forward on their ambition to give space and opportunities for the consideration. They call it the youth perspective, the child perspective, into cities, so that it was in a way to counterbalance a disappearing number of areas outdoors available to the youth, that they introduce this new act where all the municipalities would need to include children and young people, minors basically, in participatory planning. But you see, that happens at a moment where actually at a progressive moment where things were happening, and some municipalities have been doing well with the impact assessment. They have been using it a lot, and some others might not have been so much, but now everyone had the need. And in our work on the project, we came across a lot of situations that those who had to run this were always wondering why we actually are so unsuccessful in organizing these things. The youth are not coming, although we wish we need to involve them. That was before the law, by the way. And that's how we ventured on a journey of studying methods and tools that would be a little bit more open. At the moment, what is happening in the country is when the law came, the planners were left wondering, how do I comply with that? Which tools I use, how they reach to children, which methods I use to engage them, and what happens after. And in relation to that, we have found the need to find out more. And we have been doing interviews a year after, around that time, when the law was just started, and there was a little bit of question mark on the side of the planners who were very much already open in their, let's say, mental frameworks, but were unsure how to pen that out in praxis. Dialogues are the most frequently used method. And so we went out interviewing planners. We are still running interviews, by the way. We haven't finished, although we have already published a study that introduces this change of the institutional framework. And we have been talking to planners to ask them what are the challenges and what the opportunities they see with that. And a lot of what they actually told us resonates with both what was said yesterday, with what was said today. And it's about the questions related to the process of how you do it. How do you use a process that will live actually, that will stay with the kids for their lifetime? So many planners highlight that they feel a sense of responsibility because they bring the kids to talk about the places they live, and the outcomes will affect how the children or the youth will perceive the public sector, how will perceive the city in the long term. So they have a challenge of how to deal with that, to not create wrong expectation or disappointment. They are most of them really reconnected this to the basic value of democratic engagement, to the basic rights that everyone has to a safe living environment, and reconnected to the sustainability. But also another thing which came out is the temporal and the physical scale of that giving feedback is something that is very challenging because, as was discussed yesterday, kids are growing, they become adult, and the changes might not happen in their lifetime. So you see, like you, also planners and architects in Sweden wonder about the same. They have the same concern, how to deliver on that. And the physical scale is also an issue because it is an idea to co-design playgrounds, inviting kids and young people to tell what they need. So that is, at the very bottom, a driving idea. But eventually, if we look at a more institutional level, it is also, when you open up to any participatory process, they become involved in building the cities of tomorrow. So it is also a physical scale to just not focus on the user needs of kids as though who need to play there, but think of kids or a teenager girl as the future citizens or of cities that they are contributing to create them. And here is the interesting aspect of this type of case study that we are working with, is that they actually have the opportunity to go beyond discussing playgrounds. They have the opportunity to tell more about the housing, the road infrastructure, so things that are very much impacting them. That's beyond, just the free outdoor area. And in this work, we try to conceptualize the role of youth as an emerging social group that raises a voice and wants to have a say. And what is also interesting for me, as someone who studies environmental governance, you have the law, you have things happening, and don't worry, at some point in time, someone will come from the youth claiming the right. We are very much aware the young people are emerging as a very powerful political voice. They know much more what we think they know. They're not an empty and white sheet. And you might be aware that at the moment there are about 56 around the time youth-led legal climate change court cases internationally. Sweden has one, which is called the Aurora case, which is led by, they are not minors, but they are young people aged below 20 who are suing the government for climate inaction. And they can do that because Sweden has signed the international convention, it has legal requirement in place. Knowing that, and seeing how youth is very capable on organizing to push for change and use institutional structures, I am just wondering, when will this happen in planning? Because you have the law, you have the institutional structure, and I am wondering if at some point in time in the future, when the market, the liberal, the investors, the constructor will just keep densifying, taking away, where will be perhaps a young group of young people that will claim the right to be involved, to have a say, or to show how the feedback for better and healthy environment was really taken into consideration and really put into work for their benefit. So that is, for me, as someone who studies environmental governance, the very interesting bit of this story is how when you put up this institutional structure and you have an emerging political voice that has been seen in some way in the past, now gaining space and place, how things will turn in the long term. And I think with this, I probably used all my minutes. Thank you. And I thank you all. For those who are interested about the project, I put here some Medium. We have a Medium blog where we write about the case studies, the work we do, and a YouTube channel. So welcome everyone to contact if you want to know more. Thank you.